Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Dublin Urban Rivers Life Water Quality in Urban Rivers Conference as part of the Durl project. It's going to be called Durl during the day, in case anyone needs that explained. It's the Life project. We're here at the Rua Red Theatre in Tallaght, and it's great to see an urban-based project in an urban theatre, a hard-working theatre as well. We have just a little bit of housekeeping to do. Exits here, should the fire alarm go off, exits are on the right, and behind the curtain that will be exposed, and we have to leave if the fire alarm sounds. For online participants, if that happens, we will pause the conference until it's safe to resume, okay? That shouldn't happen, hopefully not. We have three, so other thing is, phones, if you could put them on silence or turn them off even and enjoy the day. For participants online, we have Slido, and you can pop your questions in there as we go through the day. And we'll pull some questions off Slido and from the audience in the theatre itself. The LIFE project has three principal parties, South Dublin County Council, Dunleary-Rathdown County Council, and the EU Life Fund. So to open the conference, I'm going to ask Teresa Walsh, Director of Service, Environment, Water and Climate Change, to open the conference first. And Teresa, I believe you were there from the beginning, so it's good to have you here. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Richard. Very happy to be with this project from the beginning and to soldier through and see it coming to a conclusion at the moment, and hopefully then, as it is a demonstration project, to mainstreaming it into Ireland and the wider European areas over the next number of years. So good morning, everybody, and on behalf of the DURL Life project and our partners, Dunleary-Rathdown and the EU Life programme, I'm absolutely delighted to welcome you here to Tallaght and to the Rua Red Arts Theatre, and thank you for joining us both in person and online, and a very warm welcome to our national and international guest speakers listed for today's programme, which promises to be a very interesting and varied programme. Achieving the requirements of the Water Framework Directive can be challenging, as you all know, and this is especially true in an urban context, in urban rivers and streams. The mix of density of activities in urban areas, such as in South Dublin and Dunleary, Rathdown, and the numbers of potentially polluting sources can at times seem to have been overwhelming to us. One of these sources is what we commonly call domestic misconnections, identifying and removing pollution from our urban housing estates. This required innovative thinking, investment, and at times making judgment calls where sometimes the outcome was uncertain. When considering the way forward for the problem, South Dublin, Dunleary-Rathdown, selected a life-funded demonstration project, and the results are here today to showcase all water quality stakeholders in Ireland and Europe. The 4-year DURL project had a budget of 3.1 million, of which 1.3 million was funded by the LIFE programme, and the remainder by the two local authorities mentioned above. 3 integrated constructed wetlands have been delivered and are thriving, and 2 more ICWs will be built in the next year. 20,000 houses have been screened for pollution, and of those, 8,600 houses assessed on the ground. 1,040 washing machines, dishwashers and such appliances have found to be misconnected, and 900 of these have been rerouted from the foul sewer network to the foul sewer network, and the remaining houses working towards compliance. Millions of litres of polluted water have been prevented from entering the rivers and streams. So the outcomes of this project are impressive, with significantly less pollution in our stormwater drainage network and consequently in our rivers and streams. Safer water and cleaner stormwater outfalls of rivers has resulted in more agreeable places for people to live, work and enjoy. New wetlands have increased the biodiversity of our parks, providing striking park amenity features and assisting in adaptation to climate change. Another positive and encouraging aspect of this project has been the overwhelming support of the citizens in both counties in allowing the project team carry out assessments of their properties, achieving a staggering 99.5% access rate. You'll all agree that's pretty staggering. And where misconnections were discovered, residents made the repairs at their own cost. At the end of today's conference, I hope you have an understanding on how the demonstration project, such as this one, can show the value of local authorities and citizens working together in partnership to make a better environment for all. Just a couple of acknowledgements in case I don't get a chance later, and I always run the risk here of forgetting people, so apologies from the very beginning. But a huge thank you to our current project coordinator, Lorraine Byrne, and her team, Lauren, Brianna, Jane, Ger, and to Julian Helbert, Chris Galvin, Damien McNulty and Anne O'Gorman, who all supported the project through the 4 years, to all our storm water assessors, from whom you'll hear today as well, to Paul Buggy and his team in Dunleary Rathdown, to the EU Life Programme, the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, and lastly to our chairperson for today, Richard Fitzpatrick, who started this journey with us over 4 years ago. So thank you, Richard. So there's a wide variety, as I said, of presentations in today's programme, and a considerable amount of new water quality information that's being released, including our new animated video, which this is an exclusive now, guys. So have a great day.
Rivers are an integral part of our urban areas, and improved water quality benefits the animal and plant life in the river and our enjoyment of it. Our rivers and lakes continue to be under pressure from human activities. In urban areas, water pollution is predominantly caused by runoff from paved and unpaved areas, leaking sewers, and misconnections. Around your house, there are 2 drainage systems. Stormwater drains take rainwater from roofs, paths, driveways and gullies and discharge directly to the local river. Foul sewer drains take the discharges from household appliances and drain to wastewater treatment plants. A misconnection occurs when household appliances, such as washing machines, dishwashers and kitchen sinks, are mistakenly connected to the stormwater drainage system instead of foul sewers, causing persistent damage to the animal and plant life in urban rivers. Consequences can be serious, as a number of household appliances and many hundreds of houses can be misconnected. Misconnections cause pollution, are unsightly, emit bad smells, create an unhealthy environment and damage to aquatic life. They are a constant source of pollution and a poor outlook for the health of the local river. Some people are unaware that the problem exists. Most people do want to help. Homeowners are responsible for their home having correct connections to the foul and stormwater pipes. Homeowners can check the drainage pipes around the outside of their home for signs of misconnections. The majority of misconnection repairs are affordable, and a homeowner or a tradesperson can make the repairs. The main consideration is that they use the right pipes and fittings and ensure property repairs or improvements are connected right. In some estates, where conditions are suitable, integrated constructed wetlands, ICWs, can also be built as a natural way to treat polluted stormwater runoff from urban areas. ICWs are usually a series of shallow ponds planted with wetland plants, including reeds, rushes and sedges, that treat larger stormwater volumes and have wider amenity benefits in local parks. They are effective 24/7 and are future-proof. They increase biodiversity by providing a refuge for insects, birds and animals. Fixing and removing misconnections will improve water quality in your area and will greatly increase the health and aquatic biodiversity of your local river, safeguarding it for future generations.
That was a great video, great preview to what's going to come over the life of the conference here, and I believe a lot of the materials that were produced by the project itself will be available to local authorities and municipal authorities, and I think that video is going into about 5 different languages as well. So excellent work, looks great. Our next, so we're into speakers now, so just be mindful that we are connecting with people in Scotland and Paris and Spain, and this is a hybrid conference, so we will do our absolute best. We have a good team here. So our first person to speak to us is in person here, and our next three speakers will be from remotely. So our first speaker is Avril Gannon. Avril's a water policy advisor with the Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage. And in your past life, you worked for local authorities and you know all about misconnections and the damage of water pollution to rivers. So I'll ask you to come up, Avril, and give your presentation. Thank you.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks, Richard, and thanks, Lorraine, for asking me here today. It's great to be here and great to be online too, and what looks as a really good conference. And if that video is anything to go by, fantastic work has been done. What I'm going to talk about today, I had to think about what will I talk about, water policy, urban water policy, and I thought really that these three areas were probably most relevant to the people in the room. So I'll give a brief update on the River Basin Management Plan, where we're at, what's happening now. We'll talk about the recast Urban Wastewater Treatment Directive, which again is very relevant to a lot of people, and then I'll talk about nature-based solutions, which here in South Dublin, ye absolutely showcase. So I'm probably talking to the converted, but anyway, we'll go on. So the River Basin Management Plan, it's in draft format. It is coming. I assure you, it is coming. Just to give you some background, it has gone through WPAC, which is the Water Policy Advisory Committee, for comments. So initially went out for comments, then went back to WPAC, then went back to key stakeholders. There was a huge amount of engagement this time to try to get it right. So the text in the programme has been finalised, the programme of measures. They've now finalised, they're complete. The appropriate assessment is ongoing, and I'm pretty sure today it's going out for public consultation, which is great news. It is the graphic designer, as far as I know. We've got first draft ready to go, and it's in the middle of Irish translation. So we are nearly there. We're going out for public consultation 4 weeks and hoping to launch very end of Q2. We're holding on tight to Q2 2024, but hopefully that's where we're going. So it is coming, to let everybody know. That's not to say the work that's in this document hasn't been ongoing since 2022, because, as I say, it has been. There's a number of projects I'm going to talk about today that are measures in this that we've been moving forward. That's all I'm going to say, but you can ask questions later. I'm going to move on to the recast, which I think a lot of people have interest in. Give a little bit of background. So the Commission proposed the new recast directive in October 22. The original one, the one we have at the minute, is over 30 years old. So it does make sense to actually update it. Member States started working on this in January 2023, and they have finally agreed a text in September 2023. This is lightning speed in terms of how the EU works. This was 13, 14 times over to Brussels with everybody negotiating on what we're going to do. It was fantastic to get the speed of this so quick and to get it through, because things in Europe take quite a while. At the same time, how it works is the member states come together at the council. That's where they were working. At the same time, the European Parliament are also working on the text. So the current MEPs, as we know, are finished in June, actually not July, 2024. So the current MEPs who are going to be working on this file were there until June 2024. So they have this rapporteur, which is basically the person who's going to drive the file, and shadow rapporteur were appointed in Q1, January, basically 2023, and they also agreed their text in October 2023. So by the time we have, in October 2023, and I think it was September 2023, we had the Commission text, we had the Parliament text, and we had the Council text. So we had the three texts. Now, as we know, that last bit, you know that. What happens then is technical trilogue. So basically, they come together, we trash it out, see which is a bit of give here and a bit of take there, who works what, until we get a final compromise text. That's where we're at. That was agreed in March 2024. Again, this is interesting. This has happened so fast. I can't underestimate this. Normally, this takes at least 2 years and a couple of all-nighters. But they did quite well. They had only 2 or 3 corpers, I think, and then they got through it. So what happens then is it has to be ratified by Parliament and Council. So Parliament have two. They have an Environment Council and a plenary vote. So those 2 votes have gone through. And then what happens then is the Council, the Minister of Council is also voting it. Now, because we've got the European elections, there's a 3rd vote that the Parliament have to vote on after it's translated. So this directive has kind of slowed down. The Parliament have voted on it, it's gone through in Parliament stage. The Environment Ministers won't vote on it now coming up in June, they'll vote on it in the autumn, because the Parliament have to vote after translation. So again, it's pretty much a rubber rubber stamping exercise, but that won't happen until September, October time 2024. So we are expecting this directive to enter into force Q4 2024, and we have been given 2.5 years this time to transpose. The text is pretty much, the compromise text shouldn't change too much, but what I can talk about today, well, first of all, what I talk about today is the Commission's text, and I'll give kind of some insights. But what were we doing? And there are a number of people here who know, because we've been through the process with us, a number of people in the room who've been here and through the process, but what did we do on Ireland's side? What we've found before is if we don't engage, well then we have no say in the room. It's like not casting your vote. So this time we were very actively involved. We had an expert group which was established the minute negotiation kicked off in Europe. You can see the departments and agencies who were involved. We fully engaged with the process. We fully engaged with our member states, trying to negotiate to make sure that we could get the best outcome for Ireland. This means things like us going over representing Ireland and making sure that when we have things like one entity in Uisce Éireann, or how we deal with GDPR, or how we deal with no domestic water charges, how we deal with that in our directive so that we won't immediately sign up to something that we're going to infringe against from the word go. Procedurally wise, we talk to the government, it goes through different scrutiny committees, it goes through the different ministers, DEEP have to be involved, and again, there is, and I will go through this, pharma and cosmetics have a new role within this new directive, so we liaised with those as well. Very brief overview of what actually is coming, what's happening. The Commission's text is a very high level of ambition. The scale of the facilities, of what they're looking for, the level of treatment they're talking about is extremely ambitious. The timeframes we're talking about, very, very challenging for Ireland, considering we're already infringing on the existing directive. So they're widening the scope, again, including smaller agglomerations, and this extended producer responsibility. This is where pharmaceuticals and cosmetics industries come in, where they're extending this polluter pays principle to include that they would then pay for some of the treatments of these measures. This is another new piece, is energy neutrality, where the Commission's text required it to be energy neutral, the whole wastewater treatment process. So if we even think about that, how will that work? And how will we fit that on some of our wastewater treatment plants? And again, obviously, from our end, it's huge policy and budgetary implications from this. I'm just going to run through a number of issues so you can see what they're at, because some of them are relevant to you. And I know local authorities say, water services, nothing to do with us anymore. I'm afraid to say CCMA was very much involved. There are measures in here that are relevant to local authorities. And I think we need to really agitate this space because there is going to be a requirement for reporting to Europe from local authorities. So I'm going to go through some of the areas. We've got collection systems for agglomerations up to 1,000. Again, this is going to prove very difficult. And then the septic tanks. This again is a space where if justification has to be provided if septic tanks are used in spaces that are greater than 2% of reported treated load in any agglomeration over 2,000 PE. This text pretty much is staying the way it is. So this, again, is something we need to think about. The secondary treatment has gone down to 1,000 PE agglomerations. We've got some issues with coastal discharges, so it's slightly a bit more time to deal with those kind of issues. We've got much stricter nitrogen and phosphorus limits with tertiary treatment. And again, in the Commission's text, they said it was up to any plant over 100,000 PE, we're going to have these new limits. That's been pushed to 150,000 PE in the compromise text for both tertiary and quaternary treatment, which gives us a bit more time to get things over the line. And they've also phased a lot more of what the requirements are, again, to give the likes of Ireland time to actually be able to go over the line with this. This fourth stage of treatment is quaternary treatment. This is a new form of treatment. This is looking at micropollutants and microplastics, particularly from the pharmaceutical and the medicines. This is where the extended producer responsibility will target and will be paid for by these pharmaceuticals and cosmetics. Again, the text in the compromise text, the final compromise text is slightly different to the Commission text. The Commission it would be 100% paid. At the moment, it's at about 80% is the maximum that they will pay. But again, this is looking at everybody who's importing or distributing will then pay an extended producer responsibility, depending on the amount of substance they put onto the union market, which is the whole of Europe. This whole energy neutrality piece was a very difficult one because it's a whole new area for us to deal with in urban wastewater treatment. And And again, it's for plants over 10,000 PE. So this again was trying to think a little bit outside the box and how we could make this work and how we could use maybe, rather than having it all on one particular site, and I'm sure a number of you have been to Ringsend or you've been to some of the other wastewater treatment plants where the site space is so tight. How are we going to manage this with anaerobic digestion, only getting so much energy from that? It's how we can manage these things. So again, the wording is slightly tweaked from the compromise text to give us a little bit more flexibility. And in worst case scenarios, there is a provision to purchase up to 35%. But again, that is in the compromise text, but we'll have to wait and see when it finally lands. This is the piece for you guys, integrated urban wastewater management plans. This is really critical, and it's very, very specific. It's Article 5 and Annex 5 in the new directive. It hasn't really changed from what they're talking about in the Commission's text. This is looking at urban runoff. It's looking at a catchment, seeing what are we doing, urban wastewater and urban network, and urban runoff. It's actually asking, we have to report to Europe on this, and it's saying who's in charge of what, and what are we doing to stop the combined sewer overflows, to stop pollution. What's our plan? We report this every 5 years. There is a huge body of work in this, and this will have to be coordinated. So we'll do that within the expert group and possibly subgroups. But there will be a huge role for local authorities in this, working with Uisce Éireann, who will also have a huge role in this, again, bringing it together. The urban wastewater surveillance is something that I'm told from COVID, this is what we have been doing, but now it's being formalised. And it's looking at a number of parameters of what actually is in our urban wastewater and kind of understanding what's happening in those. Risk assessment and risk management is incorporated in this directive, not as much as we would have liked, because we'd like to be able to say, well, if we do a risk assessment, it's not really needed in this area. It's not as strong as we would like, but it is there as a theme, following from the Drinking Water Directive. So really, the Commission's text is very, very ambitious. We have managed to negotiate so that the timelines have been phased out, so the measures, while still ambitious, are hopefully achievable, because I think that's the most important thing for Ireland. We don't want to sign up to something that we know from the outset isn't possible. There is a huge emphasis and requirement that we collaborate together in this space to get this over the line. I can't emphasise that enough. It's not just local authorities in Uisce Éireann. You saw who was in that expert group. We will have to collaborate together to work as Ireland so that we're not infringing on these. And just to note, as I say, the Commission text, which is in these slides, isn't the final text. The compromise text is the final text, but we won't have that, hopefully, I'd say Q4 2024 when it enters into force. I'm going to talk a little bit about nature-based solutions and urban runoff, because it was what was talked about in the video as well. It's what a lot of people are interested in. It's what South Dublin do really, really well. And I'm just going to talk through really what we've been doing at a national level in the last few years to look at this space and why we started looking at this space. So initially, the interim guidance document that I hope everybody has seen and has a copy of, and it's on our website to download if you don't. This happened from a call from a conference like this saying, we don't have any national guidance on nature-based solutions. What do we do? How do we manage this? So after a scoping study where we engaged with local authorities, we engaged with a number of agencies and decided, well, what is the shortfall? What is there? We came out with this interim guidance document. Really, and the piece I think that's really important in this is that it's plan-led, that it's a water-sensitive urban design, so that we're thinking about water when we're designing our urban spaces, that we're showing that we can use it in multiple uses of urban spaces, that it's not just an urban space, that it's not just a park, it can be used for so much more, it's not just a car park. We're looking at our public realm in different areas, and I think it's climate adaptive and it's a resilient urban design, and we need to think that way when we're designing and planning our urban spaces. This, as I say, was published November 2021 and is on the website. And as I was chatting to people there, they were saying, you know, with COVID, everything goes online like we have today in hybrid. This was launched 2021. We were in the throes of COVID, which actually worked out really well because we ended up, instead of presenting in person and having to do loads and loads of presenting and not really reaching the target audience, we launched webinars. We had numerous webinars where we got very large audiences between launching the interim guidance and then targeting public realm projects. So URDF funding, active travel projects, to try to engage and educate maybe people who don't traditionally think about urban runoff and don't traditionally think about water in their designs and how they could incorporate it. So again, we also talk to planners because they're key in this space. And culminating those webinars, they were all done in conjunction with LawPro and are all available on their website if anyone's interested. And finally then last May we ran with Engineers Ireland a webinar series on nature-based solutions, on mainstreaming nature-based solutions. This was hugely successful. It was over 1,200 people registered for each of the 4 webinars, with over 1,500 attending the first. We looked at projects right through from design to lessons learned at the other end. It's a really valuable resource, and it's on the Engineers website, Engineers Ireland's website, if you want to have a look at it. One of the things we've been working on and we realised was that urban roads and streets, DEMers, traffic engineers, who maybe I haven't worked with before, are actually really important because there's an awful lot of hard-standing area. And so we engaged with the Department of Transport and the planning section of the Department of Housing to look at an advice note for the DEMers. So DEMers is the design manual for urban roads and streets. It's the Bible if you are a roads engineer. So this is what they use. It actually doesn't mention drainage at all. So that in itself is crazy because they should be dealing with drainage. But then when we think about it, it's a real opportunity because now when they look for drainage, what they're going to find is advice note 5, looking at nature-based solutions, saying this is what you should do. So this is what it looks like. It's available on our website to download. It was published in August 2023. What we did, we tried to make it as user-friendly as possible. These are before and after. These are real pictures taken around Dublin, before what you could do in the same space. So there's 3 of them. These are in the document to say this is what it looks like in reality. This is what it could be like. It's to try to give people an idea of what things could actually look like. And I've skipped a whole pile of, sorry about that, disappeared on. There is other also pictures and images showing how you actually design different features for NBS, and also road sections for roads engineers to show where they can actually put it in a road space. Last week, we had a conference in Dundalk run by LawPro and Resi River, another LIFE project, and at that, we launched the National Implementation Strategy for Urban Nature-Based Solutions. This is a really important document in my mind. It's a measure in the River Basin Management Plan or the Water Action Plan. And in this, this is it here. It was published just in May gone. We had a working group, as you can see, with, again, different agencies and departments. And in this, what we've looked at is those 8 proposed strategies. We've looked at these 8 areas and said, well, what could we do to mainstream nature-based solutions? What can we actually look at? What can Uisce Éireann look at? What can the planners look at? What can we do in education and training space? We all know there's, a public health and a well-being factor. If you have NBS outside your door or down your road, like those ICWs that we saw, the benefits that we're reaping for these, how can we mainstream this? What do we need to do now? There's targets in this document for 2027, and it will be reviewed. It's a living document because I think all of us working in this space know that time and things change so fast. Technology changes in the climate space. What we say is the right way to go today mightn't be in 2 or 3 years' time. So it's really important that this is a live document. So those people, those agencies and departments who engaged and we worked together with initially are going to be part of a steering group who will review this and update each other on what's going on and see where we can collaborate and how we can implement the ideas and the concepts and the measures that are in this document so we can mainstream nature-based solutions in Ireland. One of the other documents that we launched, which I think is really important and is kind of a first step in this process, is a rainwater management plan. It's a guidance for local authorities, primarily aimed at local planners, local authority planners. And this was we've done by the Department of Housing, Local Heritage, Local Government and Heritage, but also Cork County Council led this project with their consultants. We had numerous other local authorities who were involved. You'll see them in the back of the document who were involved and who engaged in this process. Again, this was published, is available on the website. It's kind of looking at what you need to do. Why would we look at rainwater management? Why would we plan this? And really it's looking at stuff we know, where the rain falls, where's the best place to put NBS, why would we put it somewhere, why do we not put it on the top of a hill and we put it down the bottom, things like that, to get people thinking about these ideas. So it's following water across a development, and again, thinking about that concept of water-sensitive urban design. Planners are key to what we do. We can do so much in water services, but unless we have the planners, unless we have the ecologists, the architects, the landscape architects involved, it won't work. We need to work together in this space. These are some of the diagrams which I think are probably the most useful ones. Again, it's the process and how they actually do it, and the hierarchy, where again we're promoting nature-based solutions first, down to the very, very bottom, which is your underground drainage, which we all know that's not what we're pushing, that's not what we want. But in some situations it is needed, unfortunately. So this was the coming together last week, as I say, of the Law Pro conference on NBS and DKIT. It was a really interesting conference because for once it was nature-based solutions across all thematic areas. So yes, I'm interested in the urban, but actually the rural, coastal and riverine NBS was also extremely interesting. And to have everybody in the same room talking about this was fantastic. We launched the 2 major documents at it. You can see Minister Noonan there, which was great. And I think you probably know some of the people in that picture. Again, it's a bit like today. It was in person and online, and we got great numbers, which I'm sure again today we're getting, because these topics are so relevant to what we're doing in our day job and so important for our future and our kids' future going forward. I said I'd throw this in as, why do we do nature-based solutions? So this is somewhere in Ireland. 2 new buildings, 1 put in underground storage. That's under 1, they used the traditional underground storage, and number 2, they used a bioretention wetland. Now, in this situation, and that doesn't always happen, I caveat that, it actually collapsed the underground attenuation tank. But even if we take that out of it and we look at the space that it was, it's not a very interesting space, the biodiversity, there is none. Placemaking, not very exciting. Anybody looking out from inside, it doesn't do a whole pile for you. Compare that to if you were sitting in an office building looking at that, which is your wetland. To me, I know where I'd want to be and which office I'd want to be looking out on. This is still working. And as you said previously, Teresa, this is going on for the future. It'll keep going. Within the River Basin Management Plan, we've also, there was a call from people saying, we use research from England, we use research from the States, we use it from Europe. We've nothing that's Irish-based. We don't have enough information on this. What are we going to do? So under the River Basin Management Plan, we put in a measure that we would look at pilot projects, 2 pilots. These are research-based projects to give us an idea what's happening in Ireland in our particular location. So there's one in Dublin City and another in Cove. These will include research in monitoring and then looking at the infrastructure later on, monitoring before and after. These projects commenced in 2023. I'll go really quick. You can see here the launch day down in Cove. It's really interesting. They disconnected a gully and created 4 rain gardens. They've used different soil types, different planting types. They had the tidy towns. You can see all the different schools were involved. They did videos on what a rain garden is. Cove got involved 100% on this. They're monitoring it to see which one is best, and ultimately they're going to create a rain garden in their public realm space. This is just visuals. I could show you all the graphs, but I think this says 1,000 words. This is the first takeoff. So the inlet is the IN, and A, B, C, D are the four rainwater planters. And we can just see that it looks better. This was going directly into the sea. So even visually we can tell. And as I say, they have the chemical results to show us it's dramatically improving it. This is what we need, and I'm hoping that these 2 project teams will be on a road show all over Ireland, showing these results and helping other local authorities with their work. Interesting, this is in the Dublin one. Again, the same brief, 2 different ways of looking at it. This is a catchment, sorry, one should have popped up after the other. This is a catchment in the Santry, so it's Rib Road, and then the proposal of what they're talking about doing, so permeable paving, tree pits, lots of consultation, and then monitoring. During the initial consultation, there was hesitancy, the usual, oh my goodness, I'm going to lose my car parking space. What am I going to do? How do we get that over the line? What the design team did was they produced these images, their landscape architect, and they went out for public consultation again. When they went out the second time and produced this, the conversation was more like, why can't we have this everywhere else? Why can't we have more of this? That's what we want as a community. I think it's engagement. Once we engage with people and tell them, show them, this is what we're giving you, then that's what they want. Everything else disappears. This is an example I champion. It's in Carlow County Council. They attended the webinars that we went to. We have engaged with Engineers Ireland and created different training programs, and they engaged with those. They attended the training programs. They used those supports, and then they went out themselves without consultants, and they were redoing this road junction anyway, and they put some rain gardens in. There has been huge, that's the before and after picture. Locally, it's been in their local paper. There's been huge uptake from the local community, so much so that they've actually been doing this on other road junctions as they're updating them. This is what we can do. This is what can be done in local authorities themselves. People think you need consultants. You don't. These guys have shown us a bit of training, a bit of using the webinars and the documentation that are there, and we can do this, and we can do it together. So thank you very much. And sorry I ran over time.
Thanks, Avril. That was very comprehensive. My mind's boggling at all the information. So our next presenter is coming from somewhere in Europe at the moment, Lynn. Lynn Barrett is a technical monitor with the ELMEN consortium, who works on behalf of the European Commission supporting the LIFE programme. Now, a technical monitor is putting it mildly. Lynn's a guru in this area. I know her for a while now, so we're very pleased to have her here in the conference. And if we can, through the magics of technical, I'm going to hand it over to you, Lynn.
Great, thank you very much, Richard. I hope you can see me and everything is working okay. I'm going to try sharing my screen right now and see what happens. So just to put this in perspective, Richard invited me, and I am, I believe, the third potential. Can you see that, guys?
Yeah, we can. Yes,
perfect.
We can. Perfect.
Okay, great. Okay, good. All right. So I'm going to try and be as quick as I can. I know we only have a few minutes to talk about this, but I'm going to try and put this project in the perspective of the European project. I'm getting some feedback, guys. Could maybe, yeah, that's better. Great. Okay. Yeah. So urban water quality in Europe, we had a great view there of what is coming with the new urban wastewater treatment refit, which is fabulous. But we've only got data that covers the period prior to this. So where are we at right now? And actually, is the polluter paying? So let's take a look at, hopefully everything will work. Okay, so what are the latest statistics? This, I think, puts everything in a nutshell. These are the latest figures from WISE, and fundamentally, 83% of rivers across the EU 27 are not reaching good ecological status. That is deeply concerning. And I think that the trend, a few trends that I'll show you, although it shows that maybe chemical quality might be improving, the overall status of our water bodies is not. So knowing that we were going to be talking about maybe more the chemical side of things here and pollutants, let's have a look at the chemical status of European water bodies. So the EEA in 2023 published this information. 47% of surface waters are not in good status. Okay, that's far away from the 83% that I just showed you in the previous slide. But in reality, there's a 20% there that's unknown. And I think that that is our real problem, is that we don't know what's happening with the rest. So that figure could potentially be a lot bigger. Okay, now as the project's targeting some of the nutrient status and removal of some of the nutrients in some of your urban misconnections, I thought we might take a look at what's happening with phosphate and with nitrate across Europe. And this has been measured since 1992. There's data since 1992. Just focus on the light blue, if you would, because this is what's happening in our rivers right now. The figures that are in the dotted lines go from 2000 onwards, and that's just because there's way more data points. And so sorry, I've got some noises off here in the room. Sorry, so 2000 onwards, because we've got more data points, so the data is more accurate. I guess what we can see is over time, there's been a slight reduction over the last, 30 odd years, but it's really not very significant. In both cases, we can see this small downward trend, which I guess is encouraging, but it's not the full picture. If we look at reported industrial releases of pollutants to water, you can see this one is recorded from 2010, again from the EEA. The starting point is 100% at 2010. And we can see this gradual downward trend in nitrates, phosphates, total organic carbon, and some of the heavy metals. But if we set this against the gross value added, which is kind of a proxy for economic activity across Europe, which is increasing, I think we can do better, which I think is exactly what the refit of the urban wastewater treatment is showing us. But these, if you like, are the knowns. These are what we know about. Then we've got the known unknowns, if you like, which are the PPC, the personal care products, the pharmaceuticals, plastics, microplastics in the water. And these are the ones that potentially are adding to that reduction in the good ecological status. So there's a lot to work on, and it's good to see that the urban wastewater treatment refit is working on systems for tackling these things. So I guess the percentage of water bodies that are not in good ecological condition per river basin district is what the Water Framework Directive really focuses in on. And in 2021, the EEA published this map. Fundamentally, if it's red and it goes to dark red, it's in pretty bad condition. You can see that most of England is like this. It's good to see that Ireland is in the blue end of the scale, which is fabulous. There is a blip around Dublin. It will be great to see if this project actually makes the red around Dublin go into the blues, which would be brilliant. I guess my question around all of this is, how accurate is the reporting? Well, just a couple of, I'm going to skip that one because I think I'm running out of time a bit. So just a couple of weeks ago, the BBC reported in Windermere that there was 10 million litres of untreated sewage dumped illegally by United Utilities into the middle of Windermere. Windermere is obviously one of our iconic lakes in the Lake District. And a similar incident in the southwest of England, the South West Water Company was fined 2.1 million. But is that enough to actually affect the cleanup that these massive pollution incidents causes? And rather than the polluter paying in these instances, it seems that pollution is profitable, well, at least for the shareholders who are involved in these water companies. A colleague of mine said after this incident in 2024 that there is an evaporation of enforcement, at least in the UK, and this is possibly true across some of the other member states. So what's Europe doing about it? Well, what happened to the polluter pays principle? It's great to see that it's in the urban wastewater treatment directive now. But in 2021, the European Court of Auditors actually commissioned a study to see what was really happening with the polluter pays across Europe. And this is across all the sectors, not just water. But they concluded that it's embedded in the environmental policy. It's there in the Water Framework Directive. It's applied effectively varying degrees in the environmental policies. The problem is that it's not actually being implemented. And while progress has been made in addressing specific pollutants, for many enterprises, the price of water does not cover the costs imposed by the pollutants they release into the water. And recovery of the costs of water service is difficult to apply to pollution originating from diffuse sources, for example, agriculture. And if fundamentally the EU continues to fund projects that should have been paid for by the polluter, hence the statements in the Urban Wastewater Treatment Plan Directive. Now, 2 recommendations. So how timely is this project of yours? Fundamentally, the Commission should assess the regulatory and administrative changes and overall cost benefit of better applying the polluter pays principle, in particular dealing with diffuse water pollution from all sources, which is precisely what this project has done. And their target is by the end of 2024. So you are extremely timely in your project. And fundamentally, the Commission is going to be looking at how the use of funds for cleaning pollution conditions is actually examined by the member states and the relevant authorities. Have they taken the necessary steps to charge the polluter? So this is all brilliant. So let's just now use our last little bit of time to look at the project in the context of the LIFE programme. And I just want to draw your attention to this stack here. So we've mapped about 146 projects between 2014 and 2022. And of those, 136 have been mapped for what they said they were going to do in their aims and objectives. And of them, there's about 50 that are reducing pollution or preventing pollution. And there's a mere 11 that are looking at water governance. So what are those projects actually telling us? I could find no other project in the LIFE programme that is actually dealing with polluter pays. Yes, we have projects dealing with CSOs. Yes, we have projects trying to eliminate the micropollutants, but there's none of them except for yours that I could find, doesn't mean to say they're not there, that are dealing with polluter pays. So I just want to finish off by saying this makes this project hugely important, and the team are to be congratulated on building such a robust approach to misconnections being identified and then insisting on the people that are paying for the work, but not only paying for it, but undertaking that work. To have visited 8,600 households is in itself extremely impressive. But to persuade people then to take part, spread the word so that others embrace the concept is truly in the spirit of the polluter pays and ensures that the European or national finances are not used to fix misconnections to surface waters that should have been paid by the polluter. The project's made a stand and is an excellent example of what can be achieved if you're bold enough and stand by your principles. I really look forward to seeing the final results of this project and hope that this great example that you've set can be replicated not only across Ireland, but also into Europe as well. So, conclusion. The polluter pays principle is still alive and well and living in Ireland. Thank you for listening.
There's a question for Avril. The nature-based solutions, are there any quick wins?
Sorry, I think there's been loads of quick wins, and I think South Dublin are exemplary in showcasing that, I think, in how they've brought about in their planning, in their development plan, as we've seen the climate action plans that they've done. And I think that's where we can start the process. But it's bringing people along with us, bringing communities, as we can see in the pilot projects. And if we bring them along, I think that's where we get the quick wins and where we'll see improvement in our water quality, in our, as Ruth says, in our mental health and our well-being of our communities, which has knock-on effects to our health costs later on. There's so many benefits that I think there's numerous things that we could do. And I think we're seeing it all around.
Thank you, Avril. We were a little bit behind technically starting the conference, which is not going to, we're just going to maybe try and catch a little bit of time at lunchtime, make it back. So we're going to go to the next session, but I just want to thank Avril, Lynn, Ruth, and Gary for their participation and what were great presentations, certainly on the theme of this conference, exactly where they should hit. So I'm sure of appreciation, maybe. Thank you. Great stuff. Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Ed.